If there's one YouTube video that you watch this entire year, it has to be this one. You need to watch this one through all the way till the end, because this is truly going to show you exactly how I sell all of my Ecomm SMMA clients. And to be honest, it doesn't matter what niche you're in, it's going to show you exactly how to sell basically any agency client on any service. Now, as always, guys, just before we jump into the video, make sure you go ahead, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. As you guys know, massively helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And with that being said, let's jump straight into the video. So as I say, how I sell all my Ecomm SMMA clients, and as you can see here, this Stripe screenshot was my biggest day, actually 12.7K. And you can see, obviously, it's 2 payments, once again, 1 customer. This is essentially a retainer, flat fee retainer, plus a ROAS deal. And yeah, again, another one, 6,000 as well. In one day. So the reason I sell so well is not because I'm good at sales. A lot of the time people think that like, oh, you just must be really good at sales. Like you must know like kind of the psychology behind sales and how to do this and that. It's really nothing to do with that, right? It's because of this. Now this is an image, this is a diagram you may have seen before, and it's really got to do with kind of where majority of the work goes and what actually makes something up, right? For example, this is how icebergs really are. What you see of an iceberg is just the tip of the iceberg, right? That's where the saying comes from. It's just the tip of the iceberg. When you go somewhere and you see an iceberg like this, that's nothing in comparison to the true size of that iceberg. What you don't see is actually what makes up the entire, or at least the majority of the iceberg, as you can see here. All of it is below sea level, right? You can't see any of it. And it's exactly, this concept can be applied to sales. The effectiveness from sales comes from not the act, not on the physical sales call. It comes from what gets done beforehand. And as I mentioned before, I'm not good. I'm okay at sales, but I'm not great at sales in any way, shape or form. But the reason I sell so well is because of the things that you don't see, right? It's not what I do on the physical sales call. It's what gets done up until that sales call. That's really where all the work goes, right? And that's really what closes the deal for me. And that's the topic that I'm going to be going through in this video, right? It's like, what things can you do before the sale that basically guarantees that you're going to get the sale, despite really what gets said on the sales call. Obviously, only so much. You can't go in there and start swearing and still close the deal, but you get what I mean. And so most people think that you have to have the best sales script / process in order to sell agency clients on high retainers. And, yeah, while this may be true for other businesses, for the agency space, it really couldn't be further from the truth. Like, yes, other businesses, other business models and whatnot, you have to be amazing at sales. I completely get it. And it's not that like sales is a myth or anything like that. Yeah, you do have to be amazing at sales for other businesses, but for the agency space, you really don't. Like, it can be your worst trait, but because of what you do up until that point, that's what's going to get you the sale. And as I say, that's really how I get the retainers that I get, the clients that I get. I'm not that great at sales, right? And this is going back to this image, right? The small part, what you actually see of the iceberg, as you guys now know, isn't really what makes up the iceberg itself, right? And same goes for sales. That small section that you see, that part is your sales ability / process. That is how well you can sell. That is what gets said on the call. That is what, that's the process that you take a prospect through on the sales call itself, etc. And really, to be honest, that makes up like 1/3 of successful agency sales. Like, that isn't even 50%. Right? But what truly does make up the sales process and effective sales is the section that you don't see. This section is what truly defines the retainers and clients that you sign on board. This is why I'm able to get the clients that I get, the retainers that I get, the ROAS deals that I get and whatnot. It's because of this section right here. It's all well and good for me to say that part of the iceberg is really what makes up how successful you are at sales. But what does that actually consist of? And what, in the agency space, what does that truly consist of? Well, first things first, it's lead generation, right? Now, although lead generation doesn't have a direct impact on sales like these other points that I'm going to discuss here in a minute do, it still massively helps your close percentage. How? Well, it comes down to desperation, right? And how desperate you are to sign on clients. If you have 1 sales call per quarter, right? So that's every 3 months. If you have 1 sales call every 3 months, then you are going to be desperate to sign that client, right? If you have 1 sales call every 3 months, that 1 call, you are going to be desperate to get them on board because, you don't have a consistent lead flow. Whereas if you have 2 to 3 sales calls a day, to be honest, you won't care if you sign that client or not. you know, and that kind of mindset is going to bleed through within the call. The client's going to feel that, and people want what they can't have, and so the prospect will subconsciously desire you far more, which is going to make closing them much easier. As I say, lead generation and how lead heavy you are within your agency isn't going to have a direct impact like these other points that I'm going to mention here in a minute. You know, these other points are going to have a direct impact on the sale. This, you know, lead generation, it's not going to have a direct impact, but it's kind of like your mind frame and your mindset on the call, right? If you're desperate to get them on as a client, they are going to feel that, and they're going to feel as though they have the leverage. Whoever has the most leverage in any sales situation wins. Now, I'm not saying that in any sales situation, one person has to win and one person has to lose, but for the most part, the person with the leverage is going to get what they want, right? And if you're desperate to sign on that specific client, whoever it may be, they're going to sense that, and that means that they're going to have all the leverage. Whereas, and that's going to come from you not having enough lead flow, right? Like I say, if you have one call per quarter, you're going to be pretty desperate to sign on that client. Whereas if you're having like 2 to 3 sales calls a day, right? You know, and you're on a call with a prospect, you're not going to really care if you sign them on or not, because in an hour you got another sales call, and then after that you got another one, and then tomorrow you got another 2, day after that there's another 3. Like, you're not going to care, and they're going to sense that once again, and that's going to not only instantly give you the leverage, but also the client's going to feel that, right? The client's going to feel as though you don't necessarily need them. And so, as I mentioned, people naturally desire what they can't have. They want what they can't have, which means the client's going to subconsciously want you even more. So then you can basically sit back, put whatever price tag you want on it in reason, and they're going to close. It's going to be a lot easier. Again, this isn't got anything to do with the sales script. This hasn't got anything to do with the sales process. It's other things that impact that sale. Like I mentioned before, it's not the tip of the iceberg. It's what's underneath that you can't see, right? Now, next point. Qualifying is the most important aspect to sales in the agency world, hands down, right? It's the most important, because it doesn't matter how, you know, quote unquote, good at sales you are. If the prospect is generating little to no profit, they will never ever close. Simple as that, right? If they're not generating any profit, they physically can't afford your service, they're never going to close. It doesn't matter your sales process. It doesn't matter what you say on the meeting. If they can't afford you, they're not going to close. End of story, no matter what. Now, this is why I put so much emphasis on having a solid qualification process, because it literally serves as the foundation to you being able to close clients, right? If you don't have a strong qualification process, your own sales calls with, you know, drop shipping businesses doing like 100 profit a month or whatever, like, you're never going to sign a client despite how good you are at sales. On the flip side, if the client is qualified, which means, you know, they've got a great brand, they can easily afford your service, and they've got an amazing product, among other things, then selling that prospect becomes literally easy once you're equipped with the right knowledge. And this is really what this video is based on. I'm equipping you with the correct knowledge, the correct sales process, etc. And we're going to get onto that here in a minute. Now, finally, it's pre-framing, right? Basically, every sales call I hop on, I know that majority of those prospects are already sold. Basically every single one. And it's because of pre-framing. It's it's the processes that they go through to get onto the call with me, right? The things that the hoops that they have to hop through in order to get on a call with me, those hoops are placed in a strategical way that basically pre-sells them, right? So I know then at that point, every sales call I hop on, majority are sold. They have, and you know, it's because they've already made their decision. And, you know, obviously, as long as the price isn't obnoxiously high, meaning higher than the actual value of the service, they're going to be happy to come up. They're going to be happy to become a client. As I mentioned, unless the price is obnoxiously high, and really there's no price tag for it being obnoxiously high, because it's really just in comparison to the value. If you're going to be bringing in, you know, for example, maybe not an agency client, but some sort of other consultant or whatever, you're going to make somebody 200K this month, purebred profit after everything's been paid, 200K a month. You can charge them 20K a month if you're going to do that routinely, right? Whereas, you know, sometimes people think 20K a month, that's ridiculously high. But if the value you're bringing is 5x that, 10x that, you'll pay anybody 20K to give you 200K back, pure profit, right? However, with agency stuff, you know, to make a client 200K purebred profit after cost of goods sold, after they pay their team members for your client solely in their bank account, it's pretty hard, right? So you can't really go ahead and charge 20K, for example. But what you can do is charge a price that makes sense in comparison to what you're going to be bringing in. And if you do that and it makes sense, as I say, that's what I do, obviously. And basically every client that comes on board, as long as I don't put an obnoxious price tag on the end of it, I basically know they're gonna close, right? And so at this point, it's really about coming from a point of leverage, first things first, on the call, and it's for me to actually see if it makes sense for us to bring them on board as a client, right? You know, the script gets completely flipped on its head, right? A lot of the times people think that the client, you know, it's on the client, like, do they want to bring you on board as an agency owner? But if you do these things right, it's more about if you want to bring the client on board, right? And again, it's all about pre-framing. So it's the hoops that they got to hop through. Like, for example, every single person who books in an agency call with me, they go through an email kind of automation, and in there I'm hitting them with more proof, I'm hitting them with reasons why they've made a good decision and all that type of stuff. Once they book in a call, they go to a separate page, which obviously for those of you in the Quantum Agency program, you guys have got that entire template, plug and play template. They go to that page where there's the video, and that kind of hypes them up for the call as well, and a bunch of other things, right? It's all about pre-framing, and really these points that I've mentioned here are just some of the points that you have to make sure are in place for you to be able to sell basically any client that's qualified. Because without these things, as I say, it doesn't matter how good your sales process is. If these things aren't in place, it's going to be a lot harder for you to actually sell the client. And I want to give you guys some actionable things, because this stuff here is pretty high level, right? Especially the pre-framing and the email automations and, you know, kind of hyping clients up for calls, and that stuff's quite high level. However, this stuff is what you can start to actionably implement on within your agency, which is the sales process on the call. Kind of how do I go through and take clients through, what does that process look like? What does that structure look like on the actual call? Well, first things first, I go through diagnosing their business, right? I break down their business to its fundamental numbers and see if it genuinely makes sense to scale up via paid traffic. That's the first thing. Then I go through a process of prepping, right? And by the way, I'm going to break down each and every single one of these points in more detail here in a minute. But after diagnosing them, I can see that we can actually be of value to them. I basically then go through prepping, which sets me up for the next section, which is polarizing. Okay, and then once I've polarized other agencies as well as other services and other ways of marketing, again, I'm going to break this down here in a minute, so don't get too worried if you're confused. That basically then simply sets me up for the close, right? And then after the close, you've obviously got logistics, which isn't really about sales at that point. It's just more about kind of literally logistics and kind of how things are structured and whatnot. Again, we'll get onto it. But each one of these kind of sections sets you up for the next section, and then that sets you up for the next one and the next one. And basically what it all does is it funnels down to the close. So by the close, they've got no other objections, they've got no other issues, everything's been answered, they're sold. And at that point, they simply close as a client. I mean, that's the process. I signed 5-figure clients with this process. I signed lower clients with a high ROAS deal with this client. I've signed consulting clients. I've signed funnel build clients, students of the program. This is obviously we go in a lot deeper detail in the program, but students of the program, some are in there with an email marketing agency or a creative agency or whatever. They sign clients using this funnel, I suppose it's a funnel structure, process, etc. as well. And it just works so well. And the reason it works well is because each section kind of flows onto the next one and fuels the next one. And also, before a client even gets to this section, they've already gone through that process of the iceberg effect, which again, as I say, once you get to the very, very last section of the call, which is the close, it's basically done at that point. They're already sold. Yeah, let's just move forward, right? But let's break down each section of my sales process. I really want to give you guys some actionable and tangible advice, and so you can basically pull from this video and actionably implement into your agency. So first things first, diagnosing, right? Immediately after you have broken the ice, by the way, you want to break the ice first. You don't want to just go straight into the numbers, right? You want to have a bit of a conversation. Immediately after you've broken that ice though, you want to dive straight into diagnosing the client's business and see if it makes sense for you to bring them on board, right? This is where you figure out what their profit margins are, website/funnel conversion rates, AOV, which is average order value, etc., right? Essentially in this section, what I'm doing on the sales call is I'm working on making an airtight logistical case, right? Removing all emotion, right? So making an airtight logistical case for myself to ensure it will be a home run. And if not, I would downsell my consulting offer, which I'm not going to go through in this module. That's a lot high level, but This is exactly what I do, right? I diagnose their business and I make an airtight logistical case for myself to see if it makes sense to scale up via paid traffic. Some businesses, I'll be very transparent with you, some businesses, e-com and info product, you can't run paid traffic for. There's so many other issues that have to be fixed before running paid traffic. Paid traffic is only viable and is only successful for those clients where everything's in place. They've got an amazing product. That product has a product market fit. The website/funnel has been proven. It's got good conversion rates. It's working. Their AOV makes sense and all this other stuff, right? At that point, then you can start injecting paid traffic at a high level, at a very severe scale, and it's going to be successful. If all those other things aren't in place, you're just going to be funneling traffic into a bucket with a hole in it, right? It's just going to go straight through. It's not going to work. And that's why I like to take every client we work with through a process of diagnosis so we can genuinely see if it's going to make sense to scale up, because we don't bring clients on board who we don't believe 100% we can actually make a killing for. And I very much advise the same for you. Now, considering this, once you can see that you can genuinely help them by building an airtight logistical case using their numbers, you now want to start the transition into selling your service, right? Selling the idea of what you do. And really, this is the point at which you want to start to detail their current and desired state. Now, current and desired state is obviously something that I'm sure you would have heard of, but it is important. 100% it's important, right? Where they currently are, where they want to get to, and there's a gap in between, and you basically want to bridge that gap. You want to show that you're the vehicle to get them from where they are to where they want to go. And this is the process, or this is the point. Now that you know 100% you can help them, the prepping stage is where you want to start to imply that idea into the sales process, right? Okay, so you're currently here, you want to get to here, and you can ask questions like, why don't you just do that yourself? You basically start to, also in this section, you start to start the process of them selling themselves, right, to you. It's like, why don't you just go from 100K a month to 500K a month? What's stopping you right now? And then they start to explain why they can't go from there to there at the moment. And what they're basically doing throughout them explaining is basically telling you how much they need you, right? So it starts to, again, you're kind of flipping the script. They start to subconsciously sell themselves to you, which again, it all funnels down to the close and making the close as easy as possible. And that massively helps the close a lot, right? So moving on. Now that their current and desired state, right, are clearly outlined during the polarizing stage, which is this stage now, you need to now position your agency as the vehicle that will take them from A to B, right? You do this by polarizing every other marketing medium, and one thing I didn't put in there is every other agency as well, right? You want to make them feel as though they're basically stupid for going with any other agency, and you do that by polarizing other agencies as well as other marketing mediums, and show why yours is, quote unquote, the one that's truly going to get them to where they want to go. This also starts the process of making your offer irresistible and making it a true no-brainer, again, which is massively going to help you during the close. But as I say, you want to start to polarize other marketing mediums as well as other agencies. By polarizing other marketing mediums, it's going to make them second guess. They're going to be like, for example, if you run Facebook ads, which majority do, but this doesn't matter. You can do email marketing as a service. You can do funnel builds as a service. Doesn't matter. Let's use it, for example, Facebook ads, because majority of people, that's what they offer, right? That's what I offer. You basically want to start to polarize other marketing mediums, influencer marketing, Google ads, etc., and say why they're bad. And then the client automatically disregards those marketing mediums and focuses on Facebook ads and why that's the best, why that's genuinely going to get them to where they want to go. Then once you show that you offer Facebook ads, they're naturally going to gravitate to you a lot more. And again, it's going to help the close a lot. But sometimes what a lot of people think is, clients I'm talking about here, they feel as though, Facebook ads, yeah, but I know that Google ads is really good. And so I'm trying to figure out where to put my money. If you just basically shut Google ads down, like you just break it apart, say, this is why it's bad, this, and this. You can't do this on Google ads like you can do with Facebook ads and all that type of stuff. Instantly, they start to just instantly disregard any of the marketing mediums that they've been thinking about, right? Which props Facebook ads up on a pedestal, or props email marketing up on a pedestal, for example. Also, you want to start to polarize other agencies as well. Other agencies do this, like it's ridiculous because when they do this, and this happens, and you want to start to really just say why every other marketing medium and every other agency out there basically don't know, there's no way that they can produce results, and there's no way that they'll get you from your current state to your desired state, right? Obviously, you don't want to go as direct as that. You don't want to be as obvious as that. You need to work your way around it, but that's the idea behind what you want to do during these phases, right? And then at this section, you basically, the close becomes very, very easy, right? Because you have now positioned your offer and service in a way that, number one, makes it a no-brainer, and they can clearly see that it will take them to where they want to go, right? If they can clearly see that, okay, if I pay this person $7,000 a month, I am going to go from 100,000 to 200K a month with my business, which has been my lifelong dream. Like, they can see it. It's the most evident thing. All right, so do you not think the close is going to be easy at that point? And number two, you've proven to the prospect that they won't be able to get to their desired situation quicker or more cost effectively anywhere else. So now you can comfortably pitch your price, right? They can go to any other agency out there, they can start to leverage any of the marketing medium, but they can basically see that all of that stuff, whether it's another agency or another marketing medium, whatever, they can basically very evidently see that they're not going to get to their goal quicker or more cost effectively as they would if they started to work with you. So now you can comfortably pitch your price, and they're like, yeah, that's fine, because everything's set up. You've set everything up in a certain way. And now really, after you've pitched your price, you just go into the logistics section. And really, as soon as a prospect agrees to move forward, which they will if you follow this video, right? You want to get them to pay the invoice, which is the only thing that will actually lock them in as a client. And once you get them locked in as a client, then you can start to go through other logistics surrounding your service, like onboarding, communication, the official start date, etc., etc. So that is basically my sales process from a very 30,000 foot view. Again, as I mentioned, this is the exact process that we go through in the program. Again, as I mentioned, this is kind of the same ideas that I go through in the Quantum Agency program, but obviously it does go a lot deeper. And in the program, I give a entire word for word script that I literally use on my sales calls. But this is a 30,000 foot view, and it still provides you with the same ideas and still provides you with actionable things, right? And one thing though that you need to remember and you need to not forget is that that entire process we've just gone through is literally impossible if the client isn't a good fit, right? As I said before, for example, one of the things, if the client isn't qualified in terms of monthly income, there's no point you taking them through this amazing sales process, because they won't convert at the end. It's literally impossible for them to pay you $10,000 a month when they are only generating $500 profit a month, right? They cannot become a client, which is why this is so vital. And it's why I've made this video, to show you that really all of that stuff that I talked previously is more important. This stuff makes up 2/3 of successful sales. The actual sales script, the actual sales process, I would personally say only makes up 1/3 of agency sales. So I hope this video brought some, first of all, actionable value, and also shown you really where you should be focusing majority of your time for agency sales. It's actually not what majority of people think. So as I say, I hope you found value in this video. If you did, as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.